get started. My name is Michelle Ramos. I'm the Prosperity Programs Director for the YWCA Metropolitan Phoenix. Welcome today. It's our first official class of America Saves Week. Welcome to the YWCA as well. We are an organization where our mission is to eliminate racism, empower women, and promote peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. We do that through a number of direct service and programs that we provide for the community. In 2022, YWCA Metropolitan Phoenix took on a deep dive into race, gender, and how that directly relates to the 12 elements of a healthy community. So this month, we are shining a light on economic opportunity and how race and gender affect people's opportunities when it comes to finances and economics. So today, we are participating in our first panel or class of the America Saves Week. And this is our way of shining light on economic security and opportunity. And we are trying to close some of those gaps and impart some resources to help everyone get to the same place. We have the next slide. Sorry, guys. There we go. There's our America Saves Week. And we can go ahead and advance a couple slides here. Just a little bit more about YWCA. All right, we're going to have a few poll questions before we get started today. Obviously, as an organization participating in America Saves Week, they like to know some facts about you. So if you could help us out with that end of it, we would love to ask you a few questions. We'll give you just a few minutes to add the answers in the chat. All right, next slide, Elsa. My team is in the background. They've got their cameras off, but Elsa and Sinai are two of our financial coaches here working in the background, but they are amazing individuals with lots of information and can be a resource for you in the future. But without delay, I'd like to introduce our panelists and get started with the real topic we're going to talk about today, and that is planning for the unexpected. You know, the pandemic has affected everyone and changed everyone's view on unexpected things happening in the world. So we thought that bringing in Joanna and Matt today would be a great way to shed light on some of that. Joanna Walker is a financial professional with growth, strong wealth strategies, and she is dedicated to helping today's generation pursue the lives and futures they want for themselves and their families. So she's lived in the Valley for nearly 20 years, has been in the education field for 15, has been a part of the financial services community for over 6. Joanna is very active in networking with other business owners, entrepreneurs, I cannot speak today, guys, entrepreneurs and professionals. She is married, and she and her husband, Shane, have 2 children, 14 and 10. One of her favorite pastimes is attending the kids' sporting events. So Joanna comes with a diverse perspective in children, as well as Matt. Matt Long is currently a community outreach educator for Take Charge America for the past 4 years. He holds an MBA in organizational management and a master's in educational counseling. His passion is to assist all ages in understanding the importance of fundamentals of personal finance. So both are very dedicated volunteers of ours, and we're excited to talk with them further today and have them kind of impart their knowledge. So again, back to our topic, saving for the unexpected. The coronavirus pandemic, as we know, has made savings a priority for many, many Americans, especially those in the most vulnerable and moderate earnings. In fact, it impacted this community the most. We saw homeless rates go up. We saw domestic violence rates go up. So it was a big impact in general in areas that people maybe didn't anticipate. 40% of working Americans report that they had difficulty paying for personal expense in 2020. 1 in 3 Americans said that they would run out of savings on hand in 1 month or less if their income suddenly stopped. So that's kind of a terrifying fact too. If something happens with our job, you get sick and there's no backup fund there, what do? You could be in jeopardy of losing your home, your place you live, many things. So nearly 1 in 2 working Americans, 45%, would have difficulty paying for a $400 emergency expense, meaning they say that they would not be able to cover it with savings or any other way or a credit card to pay for that. So while savings provides us much needed financial cushion, and it helps ease the emotional burden of worrying about what's around the corner, that's one of the reasons we are here today. But this Save for Save for the Unexpected America Saves Week panel, we will provide you with tools and tips and content that will allow you to start saving and develop that cushion or that ease of your stress and worry. So we ask along with that you participate with us and take the America Saves pledge, that you're going to take steps to put savings aside, whether that's for retirement, for a nest egg to pay off bills, or to have something there to fall back on. So we encourage you to text America Saves, all one word in capitals, to 70878. And now we're going to start getting into the important stuff. We're going to talk to Joanna and Matt, and I'm going to ask the first question, and you guys will take turns answering it. I just want to see what your personal experiences are. Emergencies that you may have run into or unexpected circumstances in your past, and how you and your families navigated that.
Sure. So about 3 years ago, I walked out my garage and it was full of water, and my hot water heater had gone out. So it was, one of those events. It was January, so it wasn't summertime where I could, get away with a warm shower. It was definitely a cold shower, and it was a gas hot water heater and cost $2,100 to replace. And so if I didn't have money set aside for that, I may have paid $2,800 to $3,000 if I put it on a credit card and paid interest. So that having that rainy day fund, emergency fund, whatever you want to call it, just that chunk of money set aside to take care of those unexpected events is really key to protecting your debt position more than anything else.
Yeah. So one of the things that I thought of was my husband and I, we both work on commission. And so for anybody that works on commission or whose income fluctuates at different times, we have found it really important to make sure that we have money set aside, because even though we don't plan to need to use it, sometimes there are those months where things happen, COVID, and maybe your employer shuts down or has reduced hours or adjusts shifts or things like that, and the bills keep coming. The mortgage company or the property manager, they may feel for you if you're having financial challenges, but they still have their own bills to pay and they expect you to continue paying. So being able to have that additional money set aside to be able to cover if there are those times when things just happen, and we need to make sure that we have the money in place to be able to cover that. So like Matt's saying, that we don't have to think that we need to put it on credit card to be able to pay the electric bill or whatever the case may be. So being able to have that set aside is really helpful, and has certainly helped us out a lot of different times.
Agreed. I've been there myself as well. When you have a home or children, anything, pets, there's so many things unexpected that can come up. So with that being said, and a little bit of personal experience, where does someone start to start a emergency savings account? Where does that money come from? How do they get there?
So I think that it really, I think sometimes we think it has to be this really formalized, fancy, intricate process, and it really doesn't have to be. I think if we sit down and take a look at what our income and our expenses are on a monthly basis, and take a look and see, okay, here's where I'm spending this money. Here's where I'm spending this money. I want to be making sure that I'm putting something aside. And it really, I think we can kind of go by some of those standards, like set aside, 3 to 6 months of expenses or something like that. But I think it also really depends on the person and what their situation is as well. And so being able to sit down and figure out what your income and expenses are, and maybe needing to make some adjustments in the budget to make sure that you have some that's going aside. And then, as far as where that goes, certainly, it could be in a savings account, or a lot of banks will allow you to set up separate accounts for separate things. So if you want to have one and label it emergency fund, or when stuff happens, here's the money, whatever you want to do. And I think it's important just to get in the habit of putting something in there, because even if it seems at the time that, say on a weekly or every other week basis, that it may not seem like that much money, over time, it starts adding up. And then when you have those things that come along, like the water heater that has flooded your garage, then you at least have something that can help you to offset, if not cover, the costs that come along with that.
Absolutely. Matt, you want to add to that?
Sure. It's tax season. Hey, comes around every year. And I get this question all the time this time of year. Should I pay down debt or should I put it in savings? And my response to that every time is, well, do you have savings? Do you have, if you're renting, do you have $1,000 set aside for, a dead battery or flat tire? Do you have a month or two of your expenses set aside in case, you get hurt on the job or you lose your income or something like that? And if you do, then I would say, okay, take a chunk of it and pay down debt. The problem is if you take that money and pay down your debt, let's say it's credit card debt, and you don't have a fund set aside for things, next time you have an event happen, what do? You get out your credit card and that balance starts going back up. So I always think it's important to save first and then tackle debt. And maybe if you have money set aside through your tax return, you can then be a little more aggressive on your credit card. So that would be one suggestion I would think about. And then as Joanne said, there's an old saying, how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time. How do you build an emergency fund or contingency fund? 1 month at a time, by setting that goal and just automating it. Actually, I talked about that yesterday, automating. And that money just starts to build up. And next thing you know, you've got the funds that you want to.
Very good. And the second part to that question. So we want to start, how do we get there? But then how much should you save? Where should you put that money? I keep hearing a variety of numbers these days. They used to say, 3 months worth or this, and it's gone up since pandemic. So what should someone save for? How to not be overwhelmed by that number, and how do they get there?
I think we both unclicked mute at the same time, Matt. Well, I was going to say, just like Matt was saying, it really, I don't, with some people, when I talk with them, it really depends. Everybody has a different comfort level, and some people have a much lower or much higher kind of risk tolerance, where they say, as long as I have a couple $1,000s, I know I can pretty much take care of anything that, that pops up. Now, some people, they're not comfortable unless they have 20 or 25,000. And that's, I think, where if we look at it and think, oh my gosh, I have to set aside $20,000, it can seem very overwhelming. And even though you're maybe doing one bit at a time, you think, how am I ever going to get there, right? Well, I think if we look at, okay, what's my first goal, right? Maybe it's $500, maybe it's $1,000, and I'm going to do a little bit at a time. And once you hit that number, then you go, okay, I can actually do this, right? And then often what I see is people will say, well, here's my goal. It's $5,000. They'll get to that $5,000. Now they'd rather have 10. And then, so it kind of changes over time. And I think it really depends a lot on the person, but certainly, a good goal, I think, is to have, between 3 to 6 months of expenses eventually. But day one, you have your other expenses going on at the same time. So you don't necessarily have that much. You can just go, oh, great, I have this chunk of money. I'm just going to put that over here and I'm not going to touch it. It takes time to build it. And, the thing is that, say you have a $1,500 expense that comes along and you had saved up $900. Okay. No, did you have all $1,500 to cover it? No, but you did have the 900. So you covered a good chunk of it, which is far better than having none. So, just really going along with what Matt was saying there, I think, you can go ahead and add on to that, Matt.
Sure. Well, Michelle's right. I've read a lot of data recently that they bumped that up to 6 to 12 months of your expenses. And I'm not there. I'm just not. I think that's the sky is falling. I just don't think that's a realistic number for many people. And I kind of, to answer the question, I would say I would try to have $500 to $1,000 for those unexpected things in at least 1 month. Try to set a goal again, 1 month of your expenses. That way, if something happens, you can stay where you're living, whether it's an apartment or a home or wherever it is. At least you've got a full month to try to recoup that income if you've lost your job or something like that. And then, as Joanna said, you just kind of build on that. You reach this goal and then you set another goal and you just keep going. And it's not defeating if you have to use that money to take care of an event. That's what it's there for. So don't feel like defeated. Oh, I almost got to my goal and I had to use some of it. That's okay. The key is that you had it there, and truly the stress of money will go away when you can get yourself to the point where you've got 2 or 3 months worth of your expenses and some other money set aside. That pressure goes down a little bit because you're not living paycheck to paycheck, and you've obviously gotten in the habit of saving. So it becomes natural. It becomes easy to save.
Very good. Very good advice. I'm going to go on to our next question. We're running ahead of schedule, which isn't a bad thing. Gives us more time for the tricky question. I really like this one a lot. And it was something that America Saves We had talked about. We all think of the negative things when we think of the unexpected, but sometimes that unexpected can be an opportunity. So does it always have to be something bad that we're saving for? What is your thought on that?
You want to take this one first, Matt?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I always think it's important. I try to divide my savings up a little bit. I always try to put a little money away for something fun or something that I want to do. And for me right now, both my daughters live 2,000 miles away. So I try to put money away for a flight to go back and see them, or, anymore, it's cheaper for me to fly to them than it is to fly both of them out here to me. So I always try to put a little away for things like that. And if I get found money, like I got a refund for my car insurance, it was like $50. I just throw it in that account. If I get some sort of bonus at work, I'll throw it into that account. So any kind of found money that just kind of happens, instead of letting it go into the checking account and frittering it away, because we can all spend money, I try to throw some of that money aside for something fun that I want to do. And maybe you have children and maybe Disneyland's a goal or whatever it might be. But that way it's not just preventative for all the negative stuff. There's some positive savings in there as well. And maybe when you reach your goal, then you can use that money to the additional money, I should say, to go do something fun.
Yeah, I think that's certainly true. Sometimes you think about, I don't know, there's this car you've always wanted, right? And you come across this amazing deal, but it's going to take a certain amount of money, right? And if you don't have that set aside, then maybe you just have to pass, right? And certainly, like Matt said, you want to make sure you have that money set aside for those emergencies that can come up. But also, things can come up. And another thing I was thinking about was sometimes when there are things that we're looking to pay for, it may be one price for a month, or if you can pay 6 months up front, then you get one of those months free. You get a discount. Where if you didn't have something set aside, you're going to be paying full price. But because you've planned ahead, you get to take an opportunity of that discount on something you're going to be paying for anyway. But if you didn't have that money available, you wouldn't be able to take advantage of that opportunity to save yourself some money. So that was another thing I had thought of when we were thinking about opportunities.
Great. My brain kind of went to business opportunities as well. I don't know. I mean, sometimes that's significant amounts of money, but if it's something smaller where you could invest or learn to use the stock market a little bit, or, I was thinking about that angle of it too. Is that something that people should consider? Because they could make their money grow if that money's there for an opportunity such as that.
Yeah. And one other thing that kind of goes along with that is, when I'm talking with people, I want to make sure, I'll say to them, how much of this emergency fund do you want to make sure is immediately available? It's fine if it's just sitting in a savings account, earning pretty much not a lot. The value of it to you is that it's there and you're able to sleep at night and you feel comfortable and you're not worried about things, bringing that stress level down like Matt was talking about. But beyond that, if you're continuing to build that emergency fund, but maybe you don't necessarily need immediate access to all of it, then maybe that's where you can take advantage of different opportunities with potential investments or other things like that, where that money could maybe be working harder for you than the money that, whatever that amount is that you need immediately available. And that number really varies by person. Somebody asked me yesterday, well, how much should that be? And I said, it depends on how much you're comfortable with, because I'm not, I'm here to help to take advantage of opportunities, but I'm not here to talk somebody out of being comfortable. And so kind of figuring that amount out. What do you want immediately available? No matter what, that's the amount you need right there. And then that additional, you can potentially take advantage of some different opportunities with it to see if maybe it works harder for you.
Agreed. Matt, you have anything to add to that one, or?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is anytime you invest, you have to kind of think about your risk tolerance.
Yeah.
And the higher the risk, the bigger return is how it goes. But the higher the risk, the more chance you're going to lose it. So I would be, they have money markets that pay a little more than nothing, and they stay pretty liquid, within your bank accounts. So I would just be careful that you're not trying to make a ton of money, taking high risk with that, because if you lose it, now you're back to zero, and that's really nowhere that you want to be. But certainly business opportunities as well, just do your homework, do your research, make sure you're comfortable with where you're putting that money, and I think you're all right with that.
Yeah, agreed. Now, I know you have both taught many of our classes, and in our classes, we talk about budgeting. How much of an impact does budgeting have to do with being successful at saving for money like this, saving for things that come up? How important is that piece of it?
I think it's really important. When Matt was talking about, if he has some money that comes in that he wasn't expecting necessarily, he has a place for it. He already has a plan for it. So, because otherwise, if it just pops into the checking account, oh, I'm going to go do this. And, I've done it where we think, oh, yes, this bonus came in, right? And then you go and you do this and you do this and you do this. And then you sit down and go, I just spent more than the bonus was. That didn't work out so well. So being able to have that plan, and I think that's really where the budgeting comes in, is just having a plan for whatever money you have. And if something, I find that when people have a plan ahead of time, like Matt's talking about, they tend to be more successful in making that money, really taking advantage of that extra money, because otherwise, you just stick in the checking account and maybe you go out to dinner, and then and later you're like, oh, but I really actually wanted to take that trip, or
right.
And I just feel like I'm not getting much closer. Well, if you just keep track of every bit that's coming along and you have a plan for it, being able to make sure that that's part of your budgeting plan, and then also having a set part of your budget being, okay, here's where the money is coming in. This much is going to this is going to this is going to savings on a regular basis. Then you kind of see it not necessarily as an expense, but it's just assigning part of that money to those different things and helping you to build that savings.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'll add to that a little bit. I like to think of my savings as an expense. It's a fixed expense every month.
Mhm.
And I think the only way you're going to be successful savings is if you know what you can afford to save. A lot of people say, oh, I'm just going to save $50 a month, or I'm going to put $100 a month away. And their income or their expenses don't support that. Maybe it does for the first month, and then next month they put 100 away, and the end of the month they have to get 50 back because they've overspent because they don't have a budget or a spending plan set together. So I think it's a key piece to finding what is your income, what are your expenses, and what is your cash flow. And then picking a good number, because your expenses aren't going to be the same every month, because food, electricity, all those things are variable. But if you can find a number that you're happy with and then just start putting that away automatically, then you can always raise that. I think another key to success in savings, whether it's for personal savings or emergency fund or even retirement, if you get a pay raise, whether it's 2.5%, 5%, whatever it is, take a portion of that and put it into those accounts. You lived the last 12 months on this amount of money, and sure, things are going up, but if you take 1 or 2% and put it over, increase your savings amount, that's how you begin to really generate and accumulate some money. But to answer the question right off the top, I think setting a spending plan is key to finding that number, whatever dollar amount that is, that you can be successful in saving every month and not have to go use it to pay the electric bill because you set your number too high for the month.
Yeah, agreed. We have a question from one of our Facebook participants, from Jennifer. She says, I always hear about strategies for reducing debt like snowball and avalanche method, but I never hear about strategic ways to save. Do you know of any of if there are any, and if they exist?
Well, I know there's a lot of apps out there and things where they're saying, it'll save, or I know some bank accounts will take the change from an expense and they'll put that into savings. I'm a big proponent of just automating. Every 15th of the month, my savings goal, I just went into my banking app. I set a reoccurring transfer, and the 15th of the month, my savings goal transfers automatically, just like my mortgage goes out on the 2nd and car insurance on the 5th and car payment on the 18th. It's just on the 15th, it just goes right in. So it's just one of my fixed expenses. And then you don't feel it. And then if I get down and I have a month where, maybe my solar panels paid for all my electricity and I normally pay this amount, I might boost my savings with that. So if you're monitoring your spending, or if you have spending leaks, for example, you buy coffee every morning, $5-6 a day. If you could start making that at home, that's $25 a week. That's $100 a month. You could take half of that and put it on top of your savings goal and start accumulating things like that. One other thing, and then I'll let Joanna go. Hopefully I'm not stealing all your thunder. Anytime you pay something off, okay, so your car payment goes away, or you finally pay off that credit card, or you pay off your student loans, any kind of debt that you've been paying on for maybe 1, 2, 5 years, that's money that you can then begin to accumulate into your savings as well, because that's part of the snowball and avalanche effect, right? You pay off one credit card and you take that and put it on the next one. Well, the end of that that snowman, so to speak, or snow avalanche is once I've paid off all my credit cards, I can now take that chunk of money and put it into savings. Because I've gone 4 or 5 years without that chunk. Why not just boost it into savings? And that's how you begin to snowball your savings. As you pay something off, take that money and dedicate it to savings that you were spending on a car payment or something like that.
Oh, good advice. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joanne.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, I think those are really great ideas, because anything that makes it easier is better. Because if if you have to sit down and think about doing it every month or every other week, whenever you get paid, I don't know about everybody else, but I know sometimes for me, I think, oh gosh, well, that would be nice, but I have this thing coming up and I could use this money for that. But rather than doing that, if you have it automatically set up like Matt's talking about, then that just takes care of it for you. I find that they tend to be more successful when the paycheck comes in, it automatically moves it over. They're not having to remake that decision every single time they get paid. It just is already done. And now they can kind of set it. They don't have to think about it. And then the point about the snowball, yeah, it is kind of the other part of that strategy, because as you free up the money that was going towards those debts, now you have more to put into your savings to use for other things. I've talked with people and they'll look at things and say, well, why does this say that paying down my debt is going to increase my savings? Well, exactly that, because instead of paying $200 to this debt and $400 to this debt and $300 to this debt, now all of a sudden you have all that money, and now you can really be making that big impact instead of having to continue, paying on the debt. Now you can really make a big impact on your savings and build that to where you're more comfortable. And I think really with any of the tools that are out there, if you Google kind of, there are all different kinds of tools, whether it's a spreadsheet that'll help track it for you, or an app that'll give you a smiley face when you get to a certain goal, or whatever it is, whatever makes the most sense for your brain and how you are motivated to continue with it. If the goal is to save money and you're saving money, then whatever strategy or tool can help you to make that as easy as possible, I think is awesome. So
Do you all have any apps you recommend, or anything that you find that stands out to help assist with that?
I'm not sure if I know a specific one. I know sometimes I've used, some people are spreadsheet people and some people are not, but that's where it really depends on, does it make sense for your brain, right?
Yeah.
So you can certainly say, okay, here's my spreadsheet, and I'm just going to put a running tally, and I'll say, here's the date, and I put in this much, and here's the date, and I put in this much, and then have it just automatically add it for you. So every time you put in money, it's going to show you your new total, so you can see how it's growing. Matt, do you know of any certain apps that might kind of do some of those fun things?
I don't. I'm kind of guilty of being old. I didn't grow up with apps, and I'm not real comfortable with that. I'm kind of an old school paper and pencil guy. I do have apps on my phone. I do use my banking app and things like that, but I have not done a lot of research on those, just because I don't know. It just sounds like it's too good to be true, but I may be way off. So I'll try to do some research between now and the end of the week, and maybe Michelle, I'll email you some of the ones that I saw that I thought might be interesting. But I think you're right on, Joanne. I don't carry cash, and that's just because I'll spend it. That old saying, it'll burn a hole in my pocket. It does.
Mhm.
I don't care if it's $1. I'll go to QT and get a 79-cent ice cream cone. I will spend every penny. So as soon as and anytime I get cash, I just go right to the bank and put it away, because with my brain, how it works, I won't use a debit card or a credit card to buy fast food. But boy, if I've got cash, woof, off it goes. So it really is figuring out a system that works for you. I don't know that there's any one set system that is going to work for everybody. Because I know people who carry cash because they use their credit card all the time, and so they don't carry their credit card, and or they carry large bills because they won't break a 20, so they won't spend that way. So I'll see if I can do a little research, and maybe some of the younger folks behind the scenes have some ideas as well. I know
they do. You know how Elsa and tonight are. My
I
team is
know.
they're on the game.
They're
So one
probably
of them
looking it
messaged
up
me a
right
minute
now.
ago. So they recommended the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that they have a lot of handouts and resources to use to save money. So you know, an app, I know everybody relies on their phone, and that's why I mentioned an app, but a lot of our young people definitely default to the phone to kind of maneuver through everything. But if you check out that website, it's CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So it's consumerfinance.gov. And my team knows they've got all these things in their back pocket. So they said there's a lot of great stuff on there. So check it out. So if something, and now we've talked about all the savings and the budgeting portion, and yes, something could come up, but what are your strategies for spending that money if something unexpected or bad happens? Like what, is that what justifies using emergency funds? Like where would you say that lies? How do people gauge if this is an appropriate expense for that money?
Go ahead, Joanna.
Oh, okay.
Here's rock, paper, scissors, right?
I know we wait and then we go. So yeah, no, I think it's a really great question, because I have seen people who have emergency funds, and like Matt's saying, you have that emergency fund for a reason. So if the $400 part goes out on the car, or the $800 whatever needs to be repaired, you have the money. So don't get upset with yourself. Don't get stressed out. Don't forget that you have the money. Sometimes people can tend to do that too, because they think, I'm just going to put this money over here and I'm not going to think about it, because as long as I don't think about it, then I won't spend it. But when those things come up, it's okay to spend that money. That's why you have it. And then, as you're moving forward, you just rebuild it to where it was, and you be happy that you didn't put yourself in a place where you felt that you had to use a credit card or not take care of something that you wanted to be able to take care of. And I had heard somewhere, like holidays come every year. It's not a surprise. It's not an emergency. We have birthdays, we know each year there's going to be another one. That's not really an emergency. Maybe set up a gift fund or something like that. So these, I think the emergency fund is really more for covering those unexpected things. I don't plan for my car to break down. I don't plan for my refrigerator to stop working. I'm sure Matt didn't plan for his water heater to flood his garage. Those are the things that can come up. Sometimes maybe there's an emergency that comes up with your kids. There's a medical bill that comes up all of a sudden, or something that needs to be taken care of. It's the unexpected things, and the other things that we know are coming, we can save for those, but maybe in a little bit different way. So maybe outside of the emergency fund, you have a gift fund, or you have a trip fund, or you have a, for the kids fund, or whatever those different things may be. And you just have those earmarked for that. But that main emergency fund, I think if you stop and kind of ask yourself, okay, is this something that I had no idea was going to happen? Then be happy that you've done the work to build that emergency fund and use it, and then just rebuild it, and then keep moving, and just try to remind yourself how nice it was, that it was more of an annoyance that whatever it was had to be paid for, rather than an, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do. So do you have to go ahead and add on that, Matt? Thanks for letting me jump on there.
Sure. I don't have much to add other than, your significant other's birthday or anniversary, or your kid's birthday, or, if you celebrate Christmas or Easter or whatever, those things are coming. They come every year, whether we like it or not. And so planning for those, putting that into your expenditures, maybe it's only 10 or 15 bucks a month that you just sneak into that account for that. And anything that affects your daily life or your ability to work or your ability to live normally in your home is an emergency. I had a bad week and I'm going out to happy hour with my friends is not an emergency. So, I mean, I think it's just one of those things, as much as, where I broke a nail and I got to get it fixed, not an emergency. Not that you can't do it, just that's not what those funds are for.
Great. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes my nails, no, I'm just kidding. And I have to add on that too. Like I've had a lot of unexpected things come up in my life as well, especially when you have children, or everything from, auto deductibles and you've got to get your car fixed, and you can't leave it set to, and then that, and it makes you look at things in a broader spectrum. I know at one point, one of my children ran my vehicle into the wall of my garage. And so I didn't realize how high my homeowner's insurance was. And, that on top of the deductible for the car, and it all adds up. But, having money there for things like that have to be fixed when water is spraying into your garage or your car is half, and always important things, and repairs. I'm the type of person that likes to have a paid off vehicle. So a lot of times my vehicles are maintained, but older. And so when those repairs come up, that money maybe that you would have put aside for a payment, you put aside for some repairs or a portion of that. So definitely some smart ways to get around it. Well, we're kind of wrapping up as far as topic goes. Do you guys have anything to add? Oh, we have a question. So we have a question from our Facebook audience. So how do you get your loved ones to save as her This person has been saving for about 2 years and it brings them a peace of mind, but her family does not save, or her or his family does not save. And she wants, and it causes her worry. So she worries for them. Why? And they're not motivated. So how do you motivate family members, because then sometimes they lean back on you because you've got some backup and then that causes extra strain. So how do you maneuver something like that?
Great question. Another great question from the crowd.
Right.
I think it goes back to maybe looking at goals, maybe sitting down with them saying, what are your goals? What are you passionate about? What's important to you in the world of finance, looking at it from a finance, not, I'd like to lose 10 pounds. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a financial goal. And then talk about ways to get there and strategies to get there. I always think about, in a lot of relationships, there's a spender and a saver in a relationship, that yin yang thing. And so I've done a lot of work with couples talking about how you get on board. And part of it is what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? Do you want to save for a home, or would you like to, as Joanna mentioned earlier, maybe you got this certain car, maybe you want to go on a trip somewhere. Maybe you never got to go on a family trip, and maybe you want to do a family trip or a honeymoon or whatever it is. Find that common goal and then set strategies that you both can do to accomplish that. Like if you buy your lunch out every day, okay, well, I want you to stop buying your lunch out and I'll make your lunch the night before so you can take it, or I'll make extra food for dinner and you can take the leftovers. And then if you go Monday through Thursday, then on Friday you can buy your lunch out. And that could be 40 bucks a week in savings. The coffee thing, as I mentioned earlier. So I think trying to get down to what are the goals and try to get everybody on the same page, going in the same direction. And then as far as loaning money to family, that's a tough one. And I don't know that I have a great answer for that. I know, like both my daughters are out of the home, and my youngest one has got her first job, and I'm assisting her a little bit because she's not making enough to make all of her payments. So I'm assisting her a little bit. But we've had the conversation that this is not going to last forever. This is going to go away. And I've kind of given her kind of a goal of a time frame when I'm going to stop assisting. But my neighbors have their 40-year-old children living in the house, and they pay for everything for them. So, it's a tough call, and it's kind of a personal call for you. So I don't know. Joanna, you got a better answer for them?
So, I mean, first of all, kudos to you for saving money. That's great, because you know the benefit of it. You know how then you're not feeling that worry. Once you can remove some of that money worry from your mind, you have room for other things. You get to think about more fun things than, oh crap, money situations, because you've placed more of a barrier between yourself and those problems that can come up. So you get to have more headspace for yourself and for other things that you'd like to do. Now, there are a couple things. So when Matt said, as far as loaning money to family, sometimes what I've heard is people say that if they're going to share money with their loved ones in some way, that it is a gift only, that they understand that they are not expecting it to be paid back. Because if I say to someone, here's this money, please, I am glad that I can give it, please accept it, and they understand that it is a gift. Now, you're not having that relationship dynamic where you're having to remind them, or, oh gosh, now I got to ask for some of that back, because now I need. If you don't have it to give, don't give it. If you aren't able to live without it, then you don't really have it to give. And that can be hard, for people sometimes to understand. But another thing, when you're talking about how can you encourage them, I think it can be challenging, because I think we often want the best for others. And if we're doing something, whatever that is, whether it's saving or whatever it is, and we see benefits from it, we want other people to feel those same benefits. However, we can't want that for them more than they want it for themselves, which can sometimes be challenging, because you think, my gosh, look, I don't have to stress about money. Why wouldn't you want to be in the same place I am? But they may just not be in that place yet. Now, maybe if they're watching you as you're saving, and they see when things come up that you're able to just take care of them and you're not worried about things, maybe they, it can kind of plant some of those seeds. But it can, money is one of those things with loved ones, family members, spouses, that can really, if you have open lines of communication about it, it can really be a kind of a bonding and something that will bring you together. If it's not discussed in an open way, it sometimes can create divisions. So hopefully, you're able to, be happy that, about your actions and what you're doing, and really just be a good role model and example for the others in your family. And maybe at a certain point when they're ready, they can follow along, or they may come and say, okay, how'd you do it? Tell me more. And you just are ready for when that time comes. You just get to be patient in the meantime, which, isn't always easy, but may take some of the pressure off of you feeling like you need to make sure that they're doing these other things too. So I don't know if that helps or not, but.
Oh, great advice. Do we have any other questions from the audience, either on Zoom or Facebook? Matt and Joanna, while we're kind of waiting to see if anybody has any questions, if you're on Zoom, feel free to type it in the chat. If you're on Facebook, same thing in the comments, and the team will make sure that we get the questions on this side. But Matt and Joanna, do you have anything to wrap up yourself, or any last comments or pieces of advice that you have?
I would just say, I think it's one of the things that is really the most important is just being aware about things, right? Being aware of different opportunities that you have, being aware of different ways to prepare yourself financially. And if you're listening to this today, you're already taking a great step in the right direction, whether you have started to save or not. And hopefully some of the things that we've talked about can be helpful, and certainly reaching out to YWCA, they have excellent resources as well. So, I'm excited for you, and I think it's great. This is a great place to start, and Hope you're sticking around all week and just soak up all the information that's out there. So.
Yeah, right on top of that, I agree with all of that. Certainly the Y is a great resource and they have tons of resources. I'll give you this thought to think about. If you're spending all of your money, then you're just working for everybody else. And so shouldn't some of that money be for you to do the things that you want to do? And so, maybe a way to break it down is to figure out, okay, I'm going to save 2 hours a week, 10 hours a month. So I figure out how much that is and see if that fits into my budget. That way I know Monday morning when I'm at work, that first hour and I'm dragging a little bit, I can go, you know what? That's okay. This money's for me. So and I could be a little more motivated that way, or whatever it may be. Really figuring out a system where some of your income is for you is really the key to financial success, in my opinion. And again, I will say congratulations to all of you for being here today, because you're learning, hopefully, and getting some ideas, and you're wanting to maybe make some changes, and I think that's really important. And I would say try to do this the rest of the week, because there's all kinds of things like that, or sign up for the Own It program that the Y offers. Those are classes that Joanne and I also have the privilege of teaching in, and lots of good information on those types of things. But you found a resource in the Y that can really walk you through all aspects of finances. They have volunteers that cover all aspects of it, and what a great opportunity. If I was a couple of years younger, I'd love to have been a part of this, even though it's the YWCA. I'd still sneak in with a wig, maybe.
We still let Matt in. We love Matt. He covers so many of our classes. It doesn't matter if you're the YW, So. All right. Well, thank you both for joining us today. Joanna and Matt are both long-lived they had a long career in financial planning and advice. So, we're thankful for them to come here today and to help you guys on your financial journey. And our whole goal with this department is to support, in particular, women, but everyone in their journey to financial wellness. And financial wellness just basically means that you live without all that worry and stress. It doesn't mean you've got to have tons of money or a Mercedes-Benz in your driveway. Our goal is to help you to live with peace of mind and handle your finances. So don't forget to take your pledge. Again, you text America Saves, all one word in capitals, to 70878. And join us for the rest of the week. We've got a new program every single day. Tomorrow is Save to Retire, and we have two wonderful professionals that are working on that. If we could go back one slide. There you go. In addition to the classes we have coming up, check out our website, ywcaaz.org. We have all kinds of classes available. We pretty much teach on a quarterly schedule for public classes. If you have a further need, email us, and we'll go over that in a minute. But if you do need help, not only can you sign up for the classes, but we do one-on-one coaching as well. ywcaaz.org/money. You can submit a form to have a personal finance coach work with you. There's no obligation. There's no fee involved. All of our classes and coaching are free of charge. And let me tell you, our coaches are not intimidating people. Even if it's a one-off coaching session where you just need advice on one thing or to get started and you want to check in another few months, then we make that model fit your needs. So please reach out to us. Next slide. So other than our classes and our financial literacy programs, we have other ways you can connect with YWCA, because our mission goes above and beyond finances, even though that's a piece of it and a piece of how we elevate and empower women. But connect with us in many ways. Social media, you can follow us there. Come volunteer for us, donate money. If it's something you can do and it's within your reach, then help us empower others to take control of their lives as well, and help us to eliminate all of the factors that go with financial barriers, race, gender, all of the things that are standing in the way of people having an equitable future. Our next slide. So here is our direct contact information. Again, my name is Michelle, and you can email me at michelle@ywcaaz.org, or you can email the entire staff at learn@ywcaaz.org. And please don't forget to follow us on social media. We have many programs from racial justice learning to different sorts of, we have senior programs as well, but we're always having some kind of talk or panel or class going on. Follow us on social media and check our website. Sign up for our newsletter. That way you can see all the great classes we have going on and the other events. And again, stay with us throughout this week for America Saves Week. Tomorrow is retirement, and it's going to be fantastic. The professionals working that event have been in the field for 20 plus years. So the experience level is pretty vast. The remainder of the week we have on Friday, Saving as a Family. And then we also have Save to Reduce Debt. So all of them are very important savings topics that everyone can use in their life and apply to make things financially a little bit easier. Elsa, our next slide. So we've got a few last poll questions for you. The team's going to throw them up on the Zoom. These, like I said, are just questions to help us gauge your enjoyment level. Was this impactful for you? Was the information helpful? It helps us to know what to do next year. Is this great? Should we do more? What do we need topic-wise as well? We'll give you just a few minutes to wrap that up. All right, it looks like we're all pretty much done with that. And also can we go to the next slide? We just want to thank you for being with us today and reaching out to the YWCA to be a part of your financial journey. Again, don't forget to take that America Saves pledge at 70878. And thank you to Matt and Joanna for all of the great information and resources that you imparted to everyone here today. And thank you so much. And we hope to see you all again. Hit us up for coaching or come attend our classes, but thank you for being here.